Hey, what's up, everyone? I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of Burn the Wagon podcast. I also want to remind you to hit that subscribe button here on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We hope you enjoyed this episode with the homie Kii Johnson talking about their journey as a tattoo artist and discovering traditional tattoos. Thank you for watching. Peace and love. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Burn the Wagon, where we're here to burn the wagon that is capitalism, patriarchy, and colonialism. My guest today is Kii Johnson, correct?
Yes, it's Kai.
Cool. I just wanted to make sure I said that right. I'm super happy to get this going. The homie Ashley sent your profile over and was like, "You got to interview them before they come out." And I was like, "Let's make it happen." I just like to always start. What tribe or tribes are you from?
I'm a descendant of the Cheyenne Arapaho, but I'm a citizen of the Muskogee Nation.
Okay, and is do you have did you grow up on the reservation out there, or is that not something that you weren't connected to?
So I'm from Okmulgee. Well, technically I'm from Morris, which is a town like right outside of Okmulgee. But Okmulgee is the capital of Muskogee Nation, and it's located within like the recognized reservation of Muskogee Nation. So technically yes, but in a more specific sense of whenever I think of like growing up in a community of like the reservation, no. Like I'm from just a really rural town in Oklahoma.
Okay, yeah, because I like to ask that question because like people that might not know about native people are like they think the natives just exist on the res and that's it, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I like to ask like everybody, like especially city Indians, like how was that growing up in the city or like away from like the native community, and if there was a native community where you grew up, you know what I mean? So I always like to
Yeah.
like highlight both sides, no matter what.
For sure. Yeah, there was Native community growing up. We have grounds out there in Okmulgee. And with Okmulgee being like the capital of Muskogee Nation, that's where our like government is held. There's a lot of culture there still. But like I said, I grew up in Morris, which is like basically Okmulgee. Whenever I'm out here and I'm telling people like where I'm from, even in Oklahoma, I say Okmulgee because nobody knows where Morris is at. It's like a postage stamp size, little bitty rural community. But so yeah, I still grew up like within the culture and but not necessarily like on like a reservation.
Because that's what was going to be like my next like question is like if that you were connected to culture at all, and like how far would you have to drive to go and be with like your people, or like you know what I mean, within the
Yeah.
community?
So I mean I definitely had a lot of family living within the Morris city limits, so I mean I had like a closer like connected sense of family in that way. But as far as going to like ceremony or anything, Okmulgee's like a 10-minute drive from
Oh,
from
okay.
Morris. So yeah,
So you're not.
I was pretty close.
So you're, yeah, that's like really like it's really good that you weren't too far from any of that. Like if you wanted
Yeah.
to go be a part of that, it's like 10, you're like, yeah, hop and skip, jump away, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And like the native church that I grew up in, it was in Okmulgee. So like whenever I would, and my grandpa was a deacon there, so we spent a lot of time like as that being a center of like community in Okmulgee with my culture.
And you pronounce it, what is it?
Oak
Omogi?
Okmulgee.
Okmogi.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And you said that that tribe specifically is what?
I know Okmulgee is just the capital of Muskogee Nation, so I'm Muskogee.
Oh, Muskogee. That was
Yeah.
okay, cool. And then your others, you have other connections to Arapaho, correct?
Yeah, Cheyenne and Arapaho. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have
Northern
any
Arapaho
connections?
specifically.
Do you have any connections to that side, or is it just mainly your the Muskogee side?
So, my grandpa was full Muskogee and my grandma was Cheyenne Arapaho. And so my dad
Mm,
is half and my mom is white. And so, as far as growing up, like within both of those cultures, even though I was in Okmulgee where it was more centered around like Muskogee culture,
hmm.
we spent a lot of time in Colony, Oklahoma as well, which is where a lot of Cheyenne Arapaho folks are, near, yeah, that part of Oklahoma, and we would travel to Wyoming for Sundance up there at a reservation in Wind River Reservation near Ethity, Wyoming.
Dang, that's crazy. I think you're the second Arapaho homie that I've had on. If I don't know if you've heard of Big Wind River. or Big Wind is their artist name. I'll send you their
Okay.
profile.
Wow. Yeah,
They're
yeah, I'd
pretty
love to see
cool.
it.
Yeah, they're I think they're like hip hop artists. They're really cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sick. Yeah, yeah. Always love to make some connection with some Arapaho folks.
Yeah, 'cause and that's one of the biggest things that I started this podcast because like even me growing up on a reservation, like I didn't know I didn't grow up knowing any like Arapaho people or Muskogee people,
Mm.
and like now being able to have those conversations and learn about those tribes and what how they do it over there is like it's like really like awesome to be able to like learn those things.
Yeah, for sure. Because we all share, a shared experience, but we are different in so many ways. I mean, but we can connect all on like the core value of being indigenous, which is cool. But yeah, getting to learn other like ways of life from different tribes is always interesting for sure.
Did you ever you said you go to Sundance. How like early do you remember in life like going to those things?
Honestly, I have more memory of going to Sundance in my younger years than I do in like my later adolescence. I haven't been since I was probably 13 or 14. Um, But having those memories, I remember being like little, as far as like shit, dude, like probably like 3 or 4, and going out there pretty much every summer. We'd make the drive from Oklahoma to Wyoming. It's like a 24-hour drive, so we'd stop in Colorado, and but we normally make that trip with my grandma, my grandpa, my mom, my dad, and then my brother. So there was like a whole like group of us, that would go up there every summer. But my brother, he's just 3 years older than me. His name's Kiba, and he was brought to Sundance like 3 days after he was born. Like he was literally like an infant, like was born on 4th of July, and they took him straight there because I mean, you can't, weave your life around, the dates of those ceremonies. So I mean, you had a baby, that baby's coming.
That's crazy. Right out the hospital, straight to ceremony.
Yeah, for
Hella native.
real. Yeah,
Um,
and
go ahead, sorry.
just saying that I remember like the other side of my family, being biracial. The other side of my family was like, "You're bringing that newborn baby all the way across the country." Like it was like a whole thing for them, like trying to wrap their head around why that was so important that he still be there. But I mean, your introduction to life, you need to be surrounded by your folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's interesting to like learn about as well because over here in California, at least what I was taught by like certain people is like a baby can't go into those spaces until they're 3 months old or something.
Okay.
Yeah, so like it's interesting. I never really like thought about that. Other how other places do with their ceremonial like practices, like allowing youth to come in to certain spaces, you know what I mean?
For sure. And I'm sure that there were spaces that he wasn't allowed to be in, just as, there are spaces that I wasn't allowed to be in as a kid, but I he was out there. He was out there for sure.
And that's pretty like I'm like I understand like we have rules and stuff over here, but like that's pretty badass to be like I took my kid to you know what I mean, like ceremony right out of the
Yeah.
hospital.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, what got me introduced to your page and who you are as a person was getting tattooed by the homie Ashley. And
Cool.
I always like to ask this to artists no matter what their art form is. Um
Mhm.
who was that first person to like put that paintbrush or pencil or whatever the thing may have been? Who was that first person to like encourage you to like get into that?
My family was always really supportive of my interest in art from a really early age. My dad was an artist, and he never pursued it like professionally, but he's one hell of an artist, and he was always drawing and doing art in high school. And his dad liked to do art as well. And so whenever I started showing interest in that, they were very, very supportive of getting me the resources and opportunities that I could get at that age. And even if that was just buying me an art set for Christmas or whatever. But my grandpa was probably the main person who really helped me like grow in that way whenever I was a kid. He bought me a calligraphy set whenever I was like 10 because I had shown interest in like calligraphy and like writing and drawing and stuff. And so he had bought me like some nibs and like some ink. And I remember being in his house and like doing calligraphy on like onion skin and like different like papers. And so the calligraphy set was like a really big thing for me at the time because I'd only ever like I'd done like painting and like markers and always drawn with pencils, doodled and whatever throughout school. But the calligraphy set was whenever I really started like, okay, like I want to do this every day. And as and I kind of put the calligraphy down after a while, but my grandpa passed when I was 13, and a couple years after his passing, that calligraphy ink is what I actually used to do my first tattoo. So there's like a lot of, I don't know, just a lot of roots in like the things that I was doing that were from him, encouraging me to be an artist for sure.
So you come from a family of artists.
In a way, yeah. I mean, like I said, neither one of my dad or my grandpa really pursued it like professionally, but it's always been something that they've done to kind of connect with who they are and their identity as like an indigenous guy. I mean, they were doing a lot of native art, and I wish that I had more of that art, like a lot of it's like in storage or whatever. But yeah, they both of them were really involved and had a deep appreciation for art, even if they weren't doing it all the time, like for their life. But whenever I showed an interest in like wanting that to be like my path, my family's always been super, super encouraging of that.
That's really awesome. And to be able to have that that encouragement in the home is super,
Hmm.
super important. Especially like, with art, because like I feel like native communities, just like no matter where, there's always an amazing artist. Like
Hmm.
painters, like drawers, like you say, like just like all kind of just like artists throughout our communities.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. They were always big collectors. Like my dad loves to collect native art. We have a lot of like framed pieces in our house. Some of like stuff that I've done, some stuff that he's collected over the years, I mean. So it was always like I was always around it. I was always seeing it, even if I, wasn't like super involved in doing it yet.
Yeah, and you were probably like soaking that up at a really young age. Like
Yeah.
you said, your pops and grandpa didn't like do it full time or anything, but still like being around them probably when they were doing art was probably like really like big on you as a big impression. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I remember even like my dad excuse me, my dad did this just the other day where he'll like sit and have all these ideas that he doesn't want to like put onto the paper, but he wants me to. And so he'd be like, you could do this, then you could like incorporate this element, and he's like breaking down this whole painting. And I'm like, bro, why don't you just do it? Like you have the capabilities. He's like, no, you could do it better. So he's always funny in that way.
That's really cool. Is do you remember at what point you were like, okay, this is what I want to do?
As far as art or tattooing or both.
We'll go art first, and then we'll get into the tattooing.
So, I mean, I was a really like driven kid in the sense that I wanted to be the best at everything that I possibly could do. And but I was never an athlete, could never like no hand-eye coordination in that way. No, I'm not like physically very strong, like I never excelled in those like fields, but whenever it came to like creativity and artistic like endeavors, I really felt like that's not only where I was good at it, but like I felt good doing it, and like it was from like a, I don't know, almost like it felt like a performance because like I loved to perform whenever I was growing up. I was in theater, I was doing a lot of music. But as far as art goes, that felt like something that was just mine part of the time. Like it wasn't necessarily like I was doing it for an audience or for a grade or whatever. It was just it did something for me that was personal. And so I really started leaning into like creating more whenever I was probably around the time that my grandpa passed because I needed something to like, cope and work through all the things that I was feeling. And so I that's whenever I knew that I wasn't going to be happy doing anything else like career wise if I wasn't creating, because I felt like, I had lots of interests. I was academically, like, I was all right, but I really found purpose and like healing in art. And so after his passing is whenever I was about 13 is whenever I was like, yeah, this is what I need to do to like survive for the rest of my life.
What was his name?
His name was Keeper.
Shout out to
Yeah.
Grandpa
Shout
Keeper.
out Grandpa Keeper. Yeah.
100%, man, because
Yeah.
that's super dope to be able to like give that gift to somebody, because like
For
that's your
sure.
life now, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
art, and he put that like calligraphy set in your hand, and like you said, you did use that to do some type of tattoo, or like that's super huge, that's super dope.
Yeah. Yeah, he was definitely a main motivator, and he was always just like, he was the most proud. He was so proud of me, and like that was like a value that I wanted to make him proud and make my family proud so bad, and he was always the one who was like telling me, like, and like drilling it into me that, like, like, you've got something going on, like, I'm proud of you. And so he was definitely one of the like major core like blocks of like my artistic career for sure, and just me as a person, just like my identity as a human being. He was a major factor in all of that. So yeah, shout out Grandpa Keep.
Shout out Grandpa Keeper, that's about to be the title of this episode for sure.
Hell yeah.
And then okay, so like at what point in your life did you get into tattooing? Because that probably obviously came later, because you said at 13 you were like, I want to be an artist. But at what
Mhm.
point did you start meeting people in the tattoo world and being like, I think I can do this too?
So I don't know, like tattooing has honestly been something that I feel like has always been like, I don't know, marking my body, or in like Sharpies, or like I remember being like a little kid and like scratching ashy legged kids on the playground with wood chips and being like, oh, we're gonna tattoo you today, and then I got into middle school and I was doing like a lot of temporary tattoos, like from the gas station, and like Sharpie sleeves in my free time. That was like my first hustle. Was I had a couple like clients at school who I would like give me like $5 or $10, and I'd like give them a full sleeve. So that was cool. But as I got older, and I was dealing with a lot of like mental health issues around like my teenage years, especially after my grandpa's passing, and I had a friend who was always there for me. And one night we were just hanging out at my house, and I was like, dude, I've been looking up a lot of stuff about like stick and poke tattoos. Like, I really want to do one. Because I had like a history with like self injury around that time as well. And I was kind of trying to look for an outlet where I could like, experience pain in a more productive, healthy way. Uh, and so I was like, I'm really showing interest in doing this, but like, I don't know, I've never done it before. Like, I didn't have access to like fake skin. Like, obviously I grew up in an age where tattooing was a lot more accessible to like people who were interested in it than, tattooers in the years before me. So like I was just looking up YouTube videos and I was like, okay, I think I can do this. So I knew I had that India ink from my calligraphy set, and we wrapped a sewing needle with some thread around like a pencil, and I taped it to the pencil. And I was like, okay, bro, we're doing this. And so me and my friend, we just sat in my room, and we might have had some help from some Crown Apple, but like that's like neither here nor there. Underage drinking is never cool. Don't do that. But yeah, we sat and we did a tattoo on her finger, and then I tattooed myself that same day. So I think I was like 16, 15 maybe.
So 3 years after you were like locked in as an artist.
Yeah.
And also like shout out to all those people that like made makeshift stuff like that and like found their way, you know what I mean? Like, because I
Yeah.
remember I remember back in the day getting all the materials. I got a guitar string, a CD player, and then there's some other stuff that I was missing, because I was trying to get that too. One of the homies was like, if you get these things for me on the res, was like, I'll make you a tattoo gun and then we'll tattoo you. I'm kind of happy I
Like send you
didn't.
on a quest.
Yeah, yeah, at the school, because I was in school. So he's like,
Yeah.
I bet you they have all this stuff at the school. And looking back, I'm like, I probably would have got the worst tattoo ever. And
Undoubtedly.
yeah, and regretted it. But then like I'm like, man, that would have been a story. But
Yeah.
I would rather not have something horrible on my body.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, yeah, you're right. Like, shout out to all the people who were like trusting me enough to let me do that. Like, cause it started out as friends, you know, like really close people that were just in my inner circle. Cause after we tattooed me and my friend Natalie that day, like the whole lot of us were getting stick and pokes. You know what I mean? Like it was like a thing for our friends. You know, they would just let me tattoo them every now and then. And so most of us have like one or two like hand poke tattoos from like back in the day, which is cool. All the friends that I grew up with in Morris. So
Yeah. Yeah, if it's like small stick and poke hand tattoos, like that's dope. But I think I would my young age would have been like, let's get the biggest tattoo on my chest.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, which like with hand poke I was limited, you know, to like pretty small designs because I didn't touch a tattoo machine until I was 18. So I started hand poking when I was like 15, 16, and did that for several years and just yeah, marked myself, marked my friends. Like I had like finger tattoos in high school. Like my very first one's in my lip because I was trying to hide it. But the other hand pokes on my body are like just like scattered throughout because eventually my parents did find out, you know, because like initially I was trying to hide it. Um but once I started like leaning into it and feeling like that was kind of a more cathartic way to experience like pain in that way and express my art, and you know like I was really like, no, this is a good thing. I showed them. Well, they found it first and then I started showing them. But yeah, so like tattooing myself that early was it was an experience for sure. You know, like having that many tattoos as like a high schooler was funny, but like I said, they weren't like big crazy pieces. They were like little like pieces of like my body. You
yes.
know, it wasn't anything like I could do with a machine.
Yeah. And since you've like been learning with like since you've done tattoos with a gun, like do you prefer the gun over the machine, or is it like do you like getting the hand poke because it's like old school and kind of like traditional?
Honestly, I prefer to do the hand pokes, just because that's where I find more of my purpose, is in like connecting with my roots in that way in like a traditional sense. I also feel like with hand poke, you can be a little bit more intentional about like
Mm.
each individual poke in the skin is like very diligent, intentionally
Mm-hmm.
done. Um, but I do most of my work with a machine, like in my day to day life, like working at the shop and everything, you know, because I tattoo as that's my job now. You know, I'm gonna be finished up with my apprenticeship as of the 30th of this month, the 30th of April. So I'll be no longer a apprentice and I'll be like a fully licensed artist in Oklahoma, which is rad. But so I plan on continuing to do more machine in the shop, but as far as like my ancestral markings, like I only do hand poke. And so whenever I think about like my preference between the two, if I could only do one for the rest of my life, I would hand poke.
That's really awesome. And you said being able to like get in touch with like your ancestral roots, is that something that was really big amongst your people? Is like that tattooing? Is there like places where like you can find ancestral like books that have the ancestral marks?
For sure, yeah. The Inchunwa project, which is like the Inchunwa is the Choctaw word for like tattooing or marking. They have
Mm,
a podcast and a page that is dedicated to Southeastern tribes like ancestral markings. And
mm,
so yeah, it was a thing, you know, for my people to be marking each other, hand poke especially, you know, with I mean they had different tools and different materials, but tattooing was like a southeastern tradition. So connecting with that part of the equation would just like opened up a whole new door for me, you know, whenever it came to growing as a tattooer. Because whenever I first started, like I said, it was just like kind of like for fun, like for kicks,
yeah,
like. But I had like some other motivations as far as like you know trying to find a healthier way to experience that and express my art, and you know so like there were some different motivations for me getting into it. But I feel like a lot of like what led me there isn't necessarily like what's keeping me tattooing, like as
mm,
far as um like the self-injury thing, like that like is what got me to like into tattooing.
Mm-hmm.
for like the most part, but like now that that part of me I've healed more, I really feel super comfortable like tattooing for my people, like tattooing for the art, you know. So like it's turned into a much different, much, I don't know, both places, both things are still beautiful, but it's definitely like a more, a way that I can connect with like my roots a little bit better, you know?
Yeah. And shout out to you for being able to like find that outlet. You know what I mean? That healthy outlet
Thanks.
of like, for your mental health. That's very super, super important. Like, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like you said, it's a it's a healthy way to hurt yourself, I guess. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
getting tattooed, like I've gotten a lot, and that each one of them hurts.
Yeah.
Some more than others, but like it's a pain that's like I'm like, oh, I'll go back for that because I like it. I like the whole
Hmm.
process. I like the going through and getting the your art or whatever. You know what I mean? Picking the art with the artist. Having that conversation. Like it's all like a. I really like the whole process, and I like that you said that each marking is like has its intention. Is there anything that you do before a hand poke tattoo, like prayer or anything before that you don't do with like the gun?
Yeah, for sure. So like with my machine tattoos in the shop, my process is a lot different than my process for doing like a ceremonial like ancestral marking, you know. Like in the shop I don't always get to do a consultation, you know, like sometimes they're walk-ins, so I don't always know the person that I'm tattooing before I get to tattoo them. And you know their design is like specific to them, you know, I'll still draw it up and you know make my changes and everything, but there's no real like prep like spiritually before I do just like a machine tattoo in the shop. But that's something that's definitely super important whenever it comes to getting your markings, in my opinion, you know. To be centered and to have intentions behind why you're doing it, and to like really, I don't know, just ground yourself and prepare for that kind of marking is it's essential, you know. So like I typically do a prayer. We typically smoke off with like cedar or sage or you know whatever their preference is. And we have a good conversation, like a consultation at least, to discuss like who they are, you know, their connection to their tribe, their connection to the design, their markings, you know, why they want to get them. Like I try to get all of that information from the people that I'm tattooing before we ever embark on like the marking itself.
Is there any like for people that do want ancestral markings, like is there any advice you would give them beforehand? Because like there are some people that get ancestral markings that's not even from their tribe. So like
Right.
that I think being able to like have that information before you go into this process is super important.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely have do your research and have a conversation with a, if you're looking to get your markings, with somebody that you know that you can trust to respect the responsibility that you have to the design, because as practitioners and as people who are doing the markings, you know, we have an obligation to make sure that what we're putting on people is good medicine, you know, that it's not detrimental to the people that the markings are for, you know, and to make sure that the person that we're marking is somebody who, because and that's like such a hard conversation with it too, is that you know like in a way it's not my place to dictate where, if you're ready for your marking, but at the same
Yeah.
time like I have an obligation to like protect some sacred stuff, you know, and to not just be given markings out willy-nilly to just anyone. But at the same time like, and if I don't think that you know you're ready for it, you know, or that you know you have a deep enough understanding of what you're doing and that I don't feel comfortable like tattooing you, like maybe somebody else will, you know, and maybe down the line you'll, you know, find those pieces that I feel were lacking, that for the reasons that I didn't want to do it, you know, and that because you have to be able to tell people no, and you have to be able to, you know, like I said, protect like some sacred stuff.
Yeah, because like a lot of these things that involve our ancestors, that involve like like you said, these sacred things, it's not something to mess with. It's not something that's
Yeah,
like, there could be consequences for doing the wrong thing or going about it the wrong way. And it's not like
absolutely.
like consequences like I don't know, like just there could bad things could happen to you, to people around you. It could not be directly you. You know what I mean? Like this is
Yeah,
just like
exactly.
these are stuff just not to mess around. And like you said, it's go best to go about it the right way, ask the right questions. Yeah, I just think it's very important to like be intentional when you're doing these things.
Yeah, for sure. And whenever you're asking for your markings, I mean, there are certain things that I know so many people who like definitely I would say we're at the point in their journey where I'm like, okay, I feel like, if anybody should have their markings, it should be you. And they're like, no, I'm not ready. Like it's not time. And I've also met some people who are trying to, jump the gun a little bit and maybe do something that they're not ready to do. And it's hard to find like a balance between feeling like you've done enough or that you have earned them or that you like I don't know have reached the place in your life where it's time to get your markings. But that's different for everyone, and like I said, that's a relationship between you and creator and your people, and that's a decision that I need to make between me and how I feel and how I want to represent like the culture and everything. So yeah, it's definitely a tricky conversation sometimes. But like if I was to give advice to anybody for getting their markings, it would be like, do your research for sure and like do a lot of self-seeking, like and like inward reflection on if this is something that you think that it's time for you to do. Because if it's not right now, that's okay.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean that it's never gonna be time. And yeah, definitely do your research on your practitioner and who's the person giving you your markings. It's essential to be with somebody that you can trust to do something like that.
Yeah, that's very important too. Is like go to someone that's trustworthy, and is doing it with the right intentions, is going with it into it with the right prayers, with like you said, you go into the hand poke stuff a little bit different than you do with the stuff at the gun.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
being able to like find someone that is like that is very important.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And there's a lot of for any of my southeastern folks, like Choctaw, Chickasaw, Muskogee, anybody in the southeastern like realm of the indigenous community, if they're looking to get their markings, and Chunwa is definitely a good resource. Even if you're not southeastern, they can help you connect with like folks of your tribe who can give you those markings. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is off topic from tattooing, but not really off topic. But I know someone that went to ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT about native names, and then named their kids the middle names that the ChatGPT gave them. So that's what I'm saying. Like people be getting wrong markings, wrong tribal names
Yeah.
made up by ChatGPT. So like I
Yeah.
think it's very important to like do our research in everything we're doing, when it comes to like ancestral marks, naming. Like it's super, super, super important.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a crazy conversation to have as well, is like what like modern like media technology, any of that is doing to these like practices, because like we're in a revitalization of our markings in like Southeastern tribes of like trying to reconnect and like, dig up information and, just revitalize that practice. That there's a lot of information that's coming from the wrong place, or from not even people who don't know what they're talking about, but just like people who have the right idea as far as like wanting to reconnect, but like the
Hmm.
wrong resources or like they're going about it the wrong way. And
Yeah.
so you definitely have to be careful. And yeah, don't chat GPT anything. Like, let's just start there.
um, is there people coming in with like AI like slop ideas, or like have you seen that in the tattoo world yet?
Yeah. Yeah, in the tattoo world, yes. In the marking community, like in anybody trying to receive their like ancestral markings, nobody's come to me with like, "Hey, AI told me that this is what my people had," like, But as far as like I got a message this morning from somebody being like, "Hey, I have a AI rendered image of like kind of what I'm wanting. Like you can do your own thing with it, but like I want you to look at this." I haven't even looked at it yet because I'm like I don't want to. I don't want to lay my eyes on that thing. You know what I mean? Like, but especially in the shop that I work in, there's a high walk-in volume, and so a lot of people are coming in, and that's just how they can like, get it from what is in their brain to what something they can see. Which so like I get wanting to find a good reference, but like, it's just not worth any of what AI brings to the table. You know what I mean? To like use that as something you're gonna go show an artist. Like I guarantee that whatever AI did, whenever you were like, whatever you told AI, tell me, and like I will
Yeah,
be able to like get you something to look at, and we can make adjustments. You know what I mean?
that's what I was thinking too. Is like, but do you think that people's fascination with that instant, because that's what like a lot of us want, right? We order something online, it's ready instantly or whatever. Like Amazon Prime got it to us instantly. And I think maybe that's what people's thought process is like, I want this, I want to see the drawing now. I don't want to wait to see what the
Yeah,
artist does. And it's like, that's the whole point. That's the whole thing for me is like, I tell
yeah.
the artist kind of what I want. And then when I show up, usually they're like, this is what I got. And I'm like, okay, that's sick. Usually for the most part. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean definitely the instant gratification of just being like AI is thinking and you're like waiting,
Yeah.
like 10 seconds or whatever, like versus having to communicate with a human being and go through like a interaction with somebody and then be patient and wait for it. Like, I know that sounds like such a drag, but like it's worth the time, you know what I mean? Like to be, and I say that sarcastically, it's like have some human connection, like have a conversation with another person. And I don't know, I can't imagine that being, I don't know, sometimes some people like ChatGPT is like their homie, bro, and like I just you got to get over that, you know what I mean?
People are having like hour-long conversation with fucking ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Like it's like their therapist.
I don't know, man. Like I understand trying to use your resources or whatever, but that is a damaging resource. You know what I mean?
Like like our brains are already like fucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like TikTok has rotted our brain, like all these social media things, and I'm guilty of it too. Like I'm
Yeah,
like
same.
I you know what I mean? Like um but like ChatGPT is just like, and I can even tell with like spell check and shit like that. Like I've gotten lazy and like will spell a little bit of the word and then wait till it pops up top. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I don't know, like we've gotten so easy with like that instant or instant help, or you know what I mean? So it's just
Yeah.
I'm trying my best to like, I've definitely like stopped using all that chat GBT, all that stuff. Try my best, to get out of it, because like I was guilty of it too, because there are certain things for work, because I was like
Yeah.
planning for youth camps, right? And can you give me an agenda for this youth camp? And it popped out, and then I realized, wait, like I'm like being super super lazy.
Yeah.
Like I need to like try to like I need to put my brain to use. You know what I mean? Not
Yeah.
just like all right, it's done. Now I can move on and my task is done for the day. So like
Yeah.
yeah.
And like I said, it can like technology can be a great resource, but it does make our brain smooth, unfortunately. And like, you gotta strengthen that muscle. It'll atrophy over time if you don't, strengthen those pathways and like try to, do the work and like not cut corners or skip steps. And that's with anything, that's something that humankind has experienced, in the past before AI and the internet and everything, but it's just made it so much easier. And especially like I can't imagine being like a parent or being a child like growing up in this state of the world with technology and just the state of the world anyway. But like I can't imagine being a kid growing up and having that as like the baseline for, and like not being able to like expand beyond what you think you're capable of because of like artificial intelligence, because it's just that easy. And everybody's like, it's like the standard for some people and like
Yeah.
some spaces, to just like run it through a program, and then you'll have your answer. So yeah, I can't imagine being a parent trying who didn't grow up that way, like trying to like raise children to like use their brains. Like it's crazy.
The kids like will do research because I work in schools, and kids will
Mhm.
do research or type in whatever in Google, right, and read the AI overview, and that's it.
Yeah,
It's like they won't go to like they won't scroll down and go to websites and like read like a whole article about whatever they're like reading about. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, we've been trying to the school I work at. It's a small school in the res, and we try to do our best. Like read an article, not the AI overview.
yeah,
Like do a little bit more reading. Like you're gonna take a little bit longer, but you're gonna know more in the end.
yeah, for sure.
Speaking of youth, and we talked about like what you were doing at 16, so like it's interesting, it would be interesting to hear what you have to say. um
Mhm.
but what advice would you give to your 16-year-old self? And I love to ask this question to everybody, because just like I think I'm pretty sure there's youth that listen to this, and I work with youth, and it's always good to be able to have like advice on deck for when they ask me questions or when they listen.
Um, man, if I could tell 16-year-old me something, it would just to stress that, like you're a descendant of ancestors, and you are an ancestor. You will have descendants. Like, you're in this place and time where there are people who have come before you and who will come after you, and you always have somebody to like make proud. And even if you don't have your own personal motivations behind like wanting to feel better in that moment, or if you don't feel like you have the tools, remember that you have a responsibility to take care of yourself so that you can be a good ancestor, and so that you can be a good descendant, be a good child, be a good grandchild, be a good parent, be a good grandparent, down the line. Because I think that's something that I struggle with a lot, was thinking that, my this like little blip in time, and that like I was like unimportant, or that like the things that I was doing at that point in time didn't matter that much. But like, I mean, somebody really cares about you, and you're going to really care about some people who are going to look up to you, and you never know who's watching. So, definitely you can find purpose in knowing that your work is important and everything that you do matters. And I definitely would also just tell myself not to punish myself for not feeling like I was where I was supposed to be in that moment. you know um because if I was exactly where I felt, if I felt satisfied in where I was, then I wasn't going to continue growing. And so use that motivation of, like I'm not where I need to be, as fuel, rather than use it as something to put yourself down. Because just because you're not exactly where you think you need to be right now doesn't mean that you aren't. you know
I
yeah.
love it. Yeah, that's super important. Like I said, it's super important. And also, there's a 16-year-old self still sitting inside us that might need to hear that.
Absolutely,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? So I think it's important to like say these things out loud, um, as much as we can to ourselves. And there, like you said, there's youth out there that's watching us. There's so many ways that youth can view from afar nowadays with internet and all these things, you know what I mean? So it's important to put like good positive content out there for the internet, you know what I mean? If we are going to do it, let's put the best that we can, and do the stuff that's going to encourage kids, you know what I mean? Or people
Yeah,
around us, not just kids but people.
for sure. Because I mean, we're all learning from each other all the time, and whether old heads want to admit it, like they can learn a lot from like the younger generations, and like we can learn a lot from the people who are going to come after us. So, it's important to just recognize that like we're all people and we're all going through our own individual experiences and have our own individual perspectives, and that we can learn a lot from each other.
100%. At least once a week, the kids at school will put me onto something and be like, "Oh wait, where I thought I'm the adult, I know, right?" Well, then
Hmm.
they'll say something. I'm like, "Oh wait, you guys are actually super right." You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Where I get kind of put in my place by a bunch of kids, like I have to remind myself, like, "Oh yeah, they know stuff too." You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I have to remember that. Like just because I'm older and have lived longer doesn't mean I know everything over them. You know what I mean?
exactly. Yeah, and I feel like we know a lot as kids that we lose into adulthood, that is valuable, perspective, valuable information, and just having like that fresh mind of like a child to be able to like have that kind of perspective is something that you'll never have again. So if
Hmm.
you're surrounded by kids of any age group, I mean, they're gonna be able to teach you something in the same way that like a really really like an elder would be able to teach you. I mean,
Yeah,
like they just have a different perspective.
absolutely. Um, is there anything that I didn't bring up or any shout outs you want to give? Any place that people can find you, like your Insta, I'll definitely tag like your Instagram handle in the caption or the description of this. Is there a shop that people can come get tattooed by you at, or would you rather just people DM you and then you can figure that out from there?
Honestly, yeah, DM on my Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me to book an appointment for something, especially whether it's a marking or a contemporary tattoo. My Instagram is definitely the best place to find me for stuff like that. Um, I am going to be doing a guest spot in Auburn, California, June 9th through or 14th. And so I have like a lot of availability to tattoo some folks out in California that I would, if there's anybody listening who needs tattooed, like I'm going to be there for ancestral and contemporary markings in June of this year. So I'm really excited about that. But as far as getting tattooed in Oklahoma or anywhere, I'm planning on doing a lot of traveling this year. So, if no matter where you're at, yeah, I'd definitely be down to talk to some people about some tattoos over my Instagram for sure.
Cool. And I'm definitely gonna try my best to pull up out there while you're
Yeah.
out here. Um, Yeah, because the org that I work for does a lot of work in Sacramento, and that's maybe 45 minutes to an hour away from Auburn.
Hmm.
So yeah, and I like I said, the homie Ashley just tattooed me, so I definitely want to come out and pull up and try to show support, possibly get tattooed as well. I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah.
Um, I've gotten tattooed like 3 times already this year, so like I'm like, let's keep it going.
Yeah, for sure. And summertime, I understand, can be like a difficult time period to like get tattooed because like you want to be in the sun, you want to be in the water. But yeah, man, I'd totally be down to tattoo you. Let me know.
Cool. Awesome. I'm gonna get this out hopefully by the end of this week, and we'll start promoting and like trying to get you folks down to Auburn in June, right?
Yeah, yeah, June. And then I'm also going to be at the Indigenous Tattoo and Music Festival in Lemoore, California on the 5th, 6th, and 7th. So that's a really cool convention, like festival that they hold annually, that is going to be in California this year. So that's like the main reason why I'm making the trip to California in June. But yeah, like I said, Ashley's the homie. She's hooking me up with a guest spot. So I'll be in Auburn too the 9th through the 14th. But so yeah, I'll be in California for a couple weeks at the beginning of June to do some work and meet some people, make some connections. I'm excited about it.
Hell yeah, let's make it happen. Again, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, taking your time out of your day to have this conversation with me. And yeah, thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you. It was really good talking to you.
Yes, awesome.
Thanks.